afrikay hurudoy adow ku herye hurudoy hadiyad ade hurudoy hadbacun aye hurudoy ahamal sara hurudoy hayin sidisa hurudoy la hogaaminaya ahamal sara hurudoy hayin sidisa hurudoy la hogaaminaya away hana tadali lilama hilafi away hana tadali doqombo habawsano weligeed halaysane sida xoolihii baa xiranala sida xoolihii baa xiranala badan baan hurudoy hamuu ku seexdoon hurudoy tanya awgeed hurudoy la hadli waaye hurudoy habeena badan baan hurudoy hamuu ku seexdoon hurudoy tanya awgeed hurudoy la hadli waaye hurudoy ali hashaydan hurudoy haleeli waayo hurudoy la iga horjooga lilama hilafi away hana tadali lilama hilafi away hana tadali doqombo sida xoolihii baa xiranala doqombo habawsano weligeed halaysane sida xoolihii baa xiranala adow ku herye hurudoy hadiyad ade hurudoy hadbacun aye hurudoy ahamal sara hurudoy hayin sidisa hurudoy la hogaaminaya lilama hilafi away hana tadali habeena badan baan hurudoy hamuu ku seexdoon hurudoy tanya awgeed hurudoy la hadli waaye hurudoy
come not from modern invention, but from the sole memory of a people who never forgot. Africa is not waiting to be saved. Africa is paradise itself. The deception was making her children believe otherwise. And now, the sleepers are stirring. The Horn of Africa, ancient Punt. The place where creation danced in curly hair and dark eyes. Where goddesses walked with bare feet on sacred soil. Calls again. Will you awaken? Let's integrate your insight with a refined, spiritually true translation that reflects the colonial, magical, and psychological dimensions embedded in this song. 1. First passage. O Africa, you sleep. Encircled by enemies and still, you sleep. Explanation. This opening line is a sacred lament, a cry from a voice that sees clearly while the rest of the land is spiritually unconscious. It speaks of a continent that is not physically dead, but mentally and spiritually disconnected. The land lies still, unaware that it is surrounded, not by friends, but by forces of deception, systems, beliefs, and powers that aim to dominate it from within and without. The sleep here is symbolic, a trance. Not a natural rest, but an artificial sleep induced by centuries of mental conditioning, false promises, and spiritual theft. The enemy in this line is not just a physical invader but an energetic force, one that surrounds the soul of Africa, disguising itself as help, while it drains the lifeblood of the land's ancient truth. This line sets the stage. The song is not only a protest, it is a spiritual alarm. 2. Second passage. Your sacred ancestors. Their wisdom devoured by vultures. Parasites feast upon your soul. And still, you sleep. Explanation. This passage expresses deep sorrow and urgency. It speaks of sacred ancestral wisdom, the ancient memory of the land, being devoured while the people remain unaware. The eaters are not just animals or invaders, they are symbolic of spiritual parasites. They consume not flesh, but identity. They devour the dignity, stories, symbols, and knowledge that once guided the people. These parasitic forces feed on the forgotten, the silence of the present becomes the feast of the enemy. What is being consumed is not only physical resources, but the soul, the roots of identity, the purity of sacred traditions, the spiritual compass passed down through generations. And while this happens, the people remain asleep, unaware that their inheritance is being erased in real time. This line grieves not just the loss, but the unawareness of the loss. 3. Third passage. Spells are placed upon your head. Like a powerless beast. You are led. Guided by your own deceivers. Explanation. This verse reveals a grim truth. The minds of the people have been crowned with illusions. What sits atop their heads is not truth, but enchantment, a forced ideology, a constructed lie, disguised as salvation. The people have become like powerless domesticated beings, once wild with wisdom, now tamed by belief systems that do not belong to them. They are no longer guided by the rhythm of their ancestors or the voice of their land. Instead, they follow a path designed by outsiders, a path of confusion, obedience, and quiet surrender. This passage exposes how control has shifted, no longer through chains or guns, but through internalized submission. They are being led without resistance, because the ritual has been repeated so long that they believe it is their own voice calling them forward. This is not just colonization of land. It is colonization of the soul. 4. Fourth passage. You carry deception like sacred truth. Stones on your back. Where are the awakened ones? Where are the eyes that see? Explanation. This verse calls out the heavy burden carried by those who have been deceived, not a physical burden, but a mental and emotional one. It is the weight of falsehood, the internalization of humiliation, worn like armor mistaken for truth. The ones who carry this burden have been trained to see their chains as gifts. The suffering is so normalized that they no longer recognize it. They hold on to the narratives of their oppressors as if they were sacred. The question asked is sharp and urgent. Where are those with vision? Where are the ones who can see clearly, those who remember what was lost and know how to return? This is not just a question of intelligence, but of spiritual sight. It challenges the listener to awaken, to find those among them who have not been broken by the spell, and to call them forward as leaders of remembrance. 5. Fifth passage. The lost mind rejoices in ignorance. Forever wounded. Like livestock, you're herded into spiritual prisons. Explanation. This verse exposes the tragedy of spiritual ignorance. It speaks of those who have lost their way so completely that they no longer even question their condition. They are not inherently foolish, they have been made so by design. Conditioned to stay lost. Their blindness is not natural, it has been orchestrated by generations of deception. They are kept in a cycle of dependency, unable to break free because they no longer believe there is anything outside the walls they've been given. The imagery here is brutal, a being once sovereign, now herded like a beast into pens built by foreign hands. Each day, they return willingly to the same captivity, Not realizing the world outside the gate is their true inheritance. It is a lament, but also a mirror, a reflection of how deep the manipulation has gone. Sixth passage. I've slept many nights hungry, not for food, but for the truth you've forgotten. Explanation. This verse speaks from the voice of the awakened soul, the one who sees clearly in a land of sleepwalkers. It is a cry from someone who has endured countless nights longing for truth to return. The hunger mentioned here is not for food or water, it is the thirst of the spirit. The deep craving for ancestral clarity, for reconnect ion, for liberation. It is the ache of remembering while surrounded by those who have forgotten. These nights are not just dark with silence, they are filled with the burden of watching your people remain in a trance, while your soul weeps with the knowledge of what has been stolen. It is both a personal pain and a collective sorrow, the agony of truth in a world built on illusion. Seventh passage. My grief has swallowed my voice. I try to speak, but still, you sleep. It is a moment of spiritual exhaustion, not from weakness, but from the overwhelming weight of truth. The speaker, awake among the sleeping, becomes silenced by grief. The sorrow is so vast, so ancient, that even words begin to fail. The land itself mourns. The voice that once sang with knowledge and resistance now falters under the burden of centuries of deception and spiritual blindness. The cry is not of fear but of knowing, the quiet, suffocating kind of knowing that becomes unbearable when no one else can hear it. There is a point where pain becomes too sacred for language. This passage lives in that silence. Eighth passage. The milk of my own mother. I cannot reach it. They block my path to what is mine. And still, you sleep. Explanation. This final cry is one of sacred denial. It speaks of a divine inheritance. Nourishment from the source, wisdom passed down from the ancestors that can no longer be accessed. The milk is a symbol of truth, of abundance, of the nurturing power that once flowed freely through the land and the people. But now, it is unreachable, blocked, guarded by deception and